For this lesson, I've put together a little page, something I might have done 25 years ago when I did web design. And that would be a very simple page with some text on it, but it's enough to get us started down the road. Now, I want to talk about in this lesson something called page properties. Page properties are the elements of a page, like background color, link color, things like that, that we can choose and make sure that they're consistent through all the pages, which is a good thing to do. Now, when you're working with page properties the way we're going to, every page can have its own page properties, things like colors, etc. One of the things you want to remember is something called the rule of consistency. Now, the rule of consistency states that if you have a large website, there should be some consistency between the pages. It could be things as mundane as a background color or a font, but they should be consistent. Now, what you choose, especially colors, might be moderated by, say, for example, your company and the company colors. But these are things we've probably already figured out. We have maybe a piece of paper, and it's got things like colors and fonts on it. But how do we apply them to the page? Let's talk about that. If you want to get into page properties, you open a page. You can go up to the word modify on the pull-down menu, and you can go down to page properties or use the shortcut. That's Command on a Mac, Control on Windows, and the letter J. That's the fastest way to get there. If you do have your properties panel open, you do have a button here that will take you to the same place. And here they are. Now, they're divided into things like CSS and or HTML. Let's talk about all of them. First of all, appearance CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. Now, we're going to talk about those later and how they apply to an overall site, but I absolutely love CSS. Think of it this way. I've got a piece of paper, and on that paper, I've typed in things like my page font, my size, my text color, background image if I'm using one, margins, things like that. I then show that piece of paper to this page. The page reads it and implements what I've got on the paper. I then show it to 20 or 30 other pages. A week or two down the road, you realize you chose, say, for example, the wrong background color. You change on that piece of paper, that one piece of paper that's being applied to 30 or 40 different pages. You change the color. Guess what? They all change. CSS is pretty cool. Now, we have a default font. That's the default browser font, but you can choose one of your own if you want to. For example, if we go down to, say this one right here, and we select it, click Apply. So it changed the font on the page. Now, we'll take that back to default, but let's talk a little bit about what we have here. For example, Baskerville, Palantino Linotype, Palantino, Century School Book L, Times New Roman Serif. What does that mean? I'm hedging my bet here. I understand that a person on the other end that's loading my page using their browser may not have on their computer the specific font that I would like them to see. So I'm saying, in this case, I want Baskerville. Love Baskerville. But you know what? If they don't have that, go ahead and see if they have Palantino Linotype or Palantino. And if they don't have that, how about Century School Book L, Times New Roman? Don't have any of those? Well, just use a serif font. That's what we're doing. Now, later, we will manage fonts and we can create our own sets. So page font. Size, you can change the size if you want to. You can change the text color. You can change the background color. Let me stop and talk about that just for one quick second. When we're working on paper, you're reading something off of a piece of paper. That's called subtractive color. A light source bounces off the paper and then comes up to your eyes. Pretty standard. When you're working on a monitor, it's called additive color. There is a built-in light source that projects the color straight into your eyes. Now, just real quick here. If you're working on paper, black text against a white background is really good to use. Easy to see, the eye can pick it out, even in low light. When you're working on a monitor, additive color, black against white is not necessarily a good thing because there's so much of an eye strain of the projective color. So I might want to, say, go into background color here and maybe give it just a little bit of gray. Just enough to knock the white down just a little bit. If I like that, I can come over and click Apply. It is easier to read on a monitor if you're using a background color. Now, if you don't want it, you can come in here and select it and delete it, and then click Apply again. We have background image if you want to use one. Let me stop and say something here. unless the image is absolutely necessary to telling the story of what you're trying to do with this website, please don't use one. It is very difficult to read text with a photograph in the background, but sometimes they're necessary. If it is, use it. Now we can choose to say no repeat, just kind of put it up there once, repeat it horizontally, vertically, or repeat it like bricks in a wall. It's up to you. And you have margins right down here. Appearance again in HTML. Now we have some similar things here. We have background image, we have background color, text, links, visited links, active links, and margins, HTML. Now here's links in CSS, and I like this. Let me move this over just a little. Number one, the link font. You will notice I have a link down there. The Brain. I don't usually like to use a different font for my link, but if you want to, you can right here. Changes the font. Now, typically, I do like to leave that as same as page font, and I'm going to put it back to where it is. We can change the size. You can change the link color when it's visited, when it's rolled over, and when it's active. Now, here's one I do like too. I've been moving away from underlining my links. This is where you do it. If I click here, I can say never underline, show the underline when they roll over it, which is pretty cool, or hide the underline on the rollover. Now, the nice thing about that is it makes the page active. You're a web designer. You understand what a link is. Trust me, not everybody is that versed in understanding what is a link and what isn't. So having something like underline when they roll over, that's pretty cool. But if you say, nah, don't want an underline, you can click here and click apply. Gone. Take that back. Now we have headings, H1 through H6. Now we can say the same as the page font, or if we want to, we can choose a different font. And if I do that, you'll notice what changes are just the H headings. That first one is an H2. The next one down is an H3. I'm going to take that back to same as page font because I'm boring. But we can also change the size and the color if you want to. Now the next one down is title encoding. We can title the document here, or we can do it from the properties panel. I usually do it from the properties panel, but you can do it here. You can change the encoding of the page if you want to. This is after we've already saved it. The other ones we don't have to worry about right now. Now the last one is a tracing image. I'm going to talk about that in the next lesson. But these page properties, the way we're setting them up, are unique to this one page. Every page has the ability to do this. If, as we're going to do later, we decide to make this into a CSS cascading style sheet, we can apply the style sheet to all the pages and guarantee consistency. Page properties. Click apply if you've changed anything. Cancel if you don't want those changes to be applied. Click OK, which means apply and change. Well, there you go. Page properties. Let's move on.